this computer. All right. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Engineering Leaders podcast series, where we actually bring together engineering leaders from various fields to pick their brains and their experiences on how a young aspiring engineer can succeed and have an exciting career. So today we are actually joined by Haris, okay, who is currently the general partner and instructor over at Sigma School. So Haris came from humble beginnings. So, after graduating from Singapore Polytechnic, he actually set his eyes out to become, or at least be enrolled in local universities like any other, poly graduate. However, he found himself in hot water, because he was rejected by every single university he applied for. Even to make ends meet and get by, he actually worked part-time at Gardens by the Bay as an enforcer, where his job is actually go around to tell people not to touch plants. But, Haris was determined to turn his fate around. And Haris worked very, very hard and self-taught himself on how to code. And after a few years of persistence and commitment, he is now not only a Google developer expert, but now runs a coding academy to teach many aspiring career switchers who are frustrated with their current role to become software developers and earn a desirable pay that they can only dream of. Without further ado, let's welcome Haris on this show. Haris, I'm really, really excited to have you here today and to share your story and your passion.
Hi, thank you so much, Kenny, for inviting me. Just maybe one point to add. Other than self-teaching myself coding, I actually went through a coding boot camp. Yeah. So yeah, that was my first foray or experience with coding, and it led me to become a software developer. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, bootcamp sounds very intense. How long was the bootcamp for?
The bootcamp itself was a 3 months duration, and it was like a full-time course. So I had to go to school or the place itself from 9 a.m. and then code all the way to 5 p.m. So Monday to Friday. And then usually the weekends I actually work. So I didn't really have maybe time for myself in a sense, but I was really desperate to find a job back then.
I see. So, Haris, since you are already on this topic, perhaps maybe you want to introduce yourself a little bit, and perhaps maybe just share your story about where you came from and how you eventually found yourself doing software development.
Right. So I think Kenny has really done his research. Good job on that. And the thing is, like for me, I really was what do you call that? Rejected by the universities. I would say or almost all universities are. So other than working part-time, I actually applied to be in a part-time university. So I was learning psychology back then, because in Polytechnic, I was learning psychology as well. So I thought that was my path to just follow, right, what I've learned so far. And then after learning part-time university for maybe one semester, right, I was thinking to myself whether I want to be in this psychology sector, because I search and research that I have to compete with all of the university students in the local universities like NUS or NTU, all those very good name universities. And then the jobs that's available in the psychology sector is not even a lot, right? So that means, you got a lot of supply, you have low demand. It makes a very competitive field, right? So I was thinking should I really continue with psychology? And then there was this article that shared of this student, A-level JC student. She just finished her A-levels, and then she went through a coding boot camp. And then after the coding boot camp, she got offered to be a software developer. And then I was thinking, wow, software developer after 3 months coding boot camp. Okay, so how much does a software developer earns? And then I Google software developer salary. And then once I saw the 6 figures, I immediately quit my university, and then I joined the coding bootcamp. So the coding bootcamp I joined was Alpha Camp, right? So like I mentioned earlier, it was a 3 months full-time thing. And then after that, I really went to search for a job. And then I was still working in Gardens by the Bay because I still need the money. But luckily, one of my colleagues, she was a university student going to work as a developer of some sort in this company. So I told her my story, and then she said, "Oh, why not you just email my supervisor or boss? Maybe they will hire you as an intern or something like that." And then after that, I just emailed, and then I got a position to be an intern. And it was actually pretty like it was like after 1 week of like my coding boot camp. So that was like pretty interesting. And then after like 6 months of interning, then I was actually more interested in mobile development. So in the boot camp, I was taught web development, but then I grew an interest in mobile development. And then after that, I just updated my LinkedIn to say I'm interested in mobile development, this framework called Flutter. And then after that, there was this person that DM'd me on LinkedIn on like Flutter. And then he say, let's catch up for some coffee and talk about Flutter. So I met him. He's actually a founder of a startup. And then we talk, and then I will say, yes, I'm interested in the Flutter. You have any like intern position or something like that? Then he said yes. So I applied for that position, and then yeah, I managed to get the intern position to be a software developer in the startup. And yeah, after 3 months interning in that startup, I converted into a full-time software developer. So that's like my story from being a psychology student who quit university, go through a coding bootcamp, and became a software developer with no coding experience, no degree. And yeah, and it literally changed my life lah. So yeah, that's my story. Hope it's not too much, but yeah.
Well, I think you're severely underplaying your story. I think everyone really can learn from how inspiring it is from that career transition. I believe it must have been very, very difficult for you. And I'm just curious because I believe the first time that that motivated you to actually do that career transition was because of that pay, I believe. But over time, since you have been coding and been in the industry for quite some time, did the motivations change, like of why you continue to stay in the software engineering industry, or there is many other reasons why you continue what you're doing today?
I guess it's like a very long journey of what I want to do. Because in software development, I guess it's pretty, for me, from my experience and what I feel about it is that being a software developer makes you busy because you can do a lot with software development. You can, create an app, create a website. After work, you want to try out different things and explore different parts of the tech industry. So not only like you can explore being a web developer or mobile developer, you can be like a data analytics, data scientist, or game development. So you could say that once you have entered the tech industry, your opportunities is like endless, right? So, but the thing is also it makes you think of whether you want to make this as a lifelong career. So I was really thinking whether being a software developer was for me. I really enjoyed it. Being a software developer, I mean, I like the challenge. There's so many things you can learn from being a software developer. But then, like being in a startup and being in a startup environment, you always hear stories of people's like they quit their job and then they start their own thing. It's like, and it's not like a ordinary job. Sometimes people quit from like big companies to start their own thing with no experience, with like very little money, and they like so have so much passion into building stuff or running their own business or startup, right? So I was like thinking to myself, would I be a software developer or should I just try out being like, this buzzword called entrepreneur, right? So like there was a period of time where, entrepreneurship was like the hype and everybody was like, oh my God, I'm going to start my own thing, right? So I was one of them lah, to be honest. So I just think about it, and then after work I also try to build my own app on the side. And then after a while I was like thinking like, okay, maybe I should start my own thing, right? So like after a year, 4 months working as a software developer, then I came to a decision to say, okay, why not I just quit my job and then try out this entrepreneur thing or building my own venture. So after that I quit, and then I started my own, I building an idea. And the whole journey was not, I mean, good and bad per se, because not many founders or startup founders say this, but when you want to start your own, you need to, you need money, right? You need to survive, right? So some people might get money from, raising funds from other investors. Some people use their savings. I'm one of them. I use my savings because I'm not a big fan of taking people's money and then have unrealistic expectations of what I'm going to do. So I just carried on building my own thing, and then at one point I was actually very close to like being broke, like really surviving with a few like thousands of dollars, that and I wasn't like surviving at all. My business that I was running was just selling online courses, and it wasn't making me survive. So I was thinking like, oh my God, should I go back to become a software developer or not? So, but that journey really gave me the space of like exploring myself for like what I really want to do with my life. And then at the same time, I also figure out what I'm good at. And right now I am very confident that I want to, help or, improve the education system. So right now I think that if you want to earn money, I mean, why do you get a degree, right? It's because you want to get a high paying job. So the goal will always remain the same, but the way to do it can be different in the future. And one of it is, going through a coding boot camp. So I think it's a full circle thing. So like I went through a coding boot camp. I literally earned as much as a degree holder. And I was like right now, let's do it, because right now is the perfect opportunity for you to learn tech. And then once you're in the tech industry, like opportunities just opens up for you. And that's like an amazing opportunity for anyone who wants to, go through a career, a career change, right? And then like if you are a person who, wants to like, I mean, other than earning money, enjoys the challenge of like learning code and whatnot, because as a developer, your main task is to solve problems. And if you love solving problems, then yes, the tech industry is for you. So that's why I feel that right now, what I feel is like my purpose or my direction is to really help people, like, because I'm not from a, financially good, well-off kind of background. Like I was from a financially not so good kind of background. And if I don't really pick up my shit, I think I will really like, not say fail in society lah, but it's like I couldn't survive, financially. So like I hear many stories from students or even developers who went through a career transition, that like they used to live in like one room flats with a family, and then they go through a career transition to be a software developer, and now this person is able to live at an environment where it's safe for his kids, and also is able to provide the family in so much more than what he could ever think of. So that is what I'm trying to do. Hopefully that answers the question. But yeah.
Yeah, awesome, man. You actually answered some of the questions that I'm about to ask. And I'm very, very inspired by your mission and vision for what you are actually trying to create, learning from your own past experience and really sharing to people that it's actually very possible, that no matter which stage you are in your life, you can succeed as a software developer. And interestingly enough, because you mentioned you actually just went through a 3 months boot camp where a lot of people, young engineers would have thought that it takes years of mastery, and a degree to be able to do that. And I'm just very curious, how were you able to do so much, and become so productive within that 3 months, that you were able to actually land yourself in internships as well as great software development companies.
Right. Actually, funny story is that during the coding bootcamp, in the first few weeks, I wasn't the fastest student. I was actually one of the slower ones. Like some of my classmates back then, they were able to, show their projects and it's like beautifully done. And then I show mine, right? I couldn't like, make it work. It wasn't as nice. So I was kind of like, because in the coding bootcamp itself, if you don't catch up, you will be lagged behind. So it depends on your coding bootcamp itself. But for mine, what I went through was that I really had to pick up the pace. Like the first week was a lot, second week is a lot more, third week is a lot more, and like it just builds up. So I had no choice but to actually like some of my classmates who are faster, who done with their work, they will like go home or yeah. And then for me who's pretty slow, I stayed back, and then luckily the teaching assistant will stay back for a while as well to help us with our project. So I really just um practice through and really understand what I'm learning, and just going through trial and error, because when you were to learn code, you will receive a lot of errors. So you need to figure out what the error means and how you can how you're able to resolve it. So at the same time, I feel that for me, this is just me. I eventually become faster and I'm able to learn quickly after a while, like getting used to it. So for me, I'm just like a slow learner in a sense. But once I get the hang of it, right, I can actually progress much faster. So that was my, I guess, like my innate or genetic skill or whatever to really learn. Like I just need a few days or hours just to catch up, and then like after a while I already am able to progress as fast as my other classmates, and then yeah, I'm able to get my projects up, and then showcase my skills as well. So I would say that it really depends on your own innate and genetic skills. So I would say that you need to have a huge self-awareness of how good your skills are. You are the only person that you know yourself best, right? You can always ask people around of like, hey, do you think I'm good at coding or not? So I mean, I have other classmates who are slower than me, and they might not be able to catch up as fast, but they actually remain, learning software development after the coding boot camp. They haven't got a software developer job yet, but they keep on continue learning. So eventually your brain is smart enough to actually, pick up the patterns of what software development is. After a while, you will get used to it. But for me, it's just that I'm able to pick it up, the skills, and then yeah. And then second thing is how I got internships or jobs is that what employers are looking out is not a person who can follow instructions, right? As a software developer, like I said earlier, you must, solve problems. So a lot of times what they will ask is for your projects. So if you were to show projects that you've done in the boot camp, or you show projects that you follow in tutorials, they don't really like it, because that means you need to be spoon-fed. So what a better project to showcase is your own personal project. So a personal project that I was building after the coding bootcamp was called this thing called Kindness Confessions. Think of it as like NUS Confessions, but instead of gossiping or whatever, it's more towards acts of kindness. So it's a platform for people to share their acts of kindness, and then build up that kindness thing lah. So I built that after the coding bootcamp, because I really just want to build my own personal project, and then maybe like carry on with learning. And then how I got an internship after my coding bootcamp was because I was able to show that project. And that project itself, right, it's not working. It's like half done. There's a lot of bugs, there's a lot of errors. But the back then the employer or supervisor, he saw that I was building my own project, and then he asked me a few questions of like about tech, and I'm able to like answer it, I think. But yeah, so in the end, like two things are: first, you need to just be technical skilled. That is just a lot of practice. Second is that you need to build personal projects. So that's why I believe I was able to get my second internship, I think. But I guess for the second internship, I would say another weird story is just that the second internship, how I get an internship was because, right, Flutter was very, very new, right? Meaning that that framework was in beta. So for those who don't know what's beta, meaning, right, before a product releases, it needs to be tested amongst those users. So Flutter, the framework, a mobile app framework that builds mobile application, right, it was in beta. So companies in Singapore don't really use it. So for me, I just betted on that and see whether it's gonna happen, because sometimes these frameworks don't really happen, and they just will be dumped into whatever, and nobody knows about this framework or whatever. So luckily, this startup in Singapore chose Flutter for some weird reason, and then they were looking for Flutter developers. And in LinkedIn, there's only 3 person: me, some person who never replied, and this person who used to work in Grab. So they don't want to hire the Grab person because it's very expensive. The person never replied, and then I was the only one. So I guess you could say I was very lucky, perfect timing. I'm not sure, but I mean, there is a quote like what do you call that? Luck is just meaning you just prepared at the right time or something like that.
All
So
right.
for me, yeah, I just do a lot of flutter. I came prepared. Opportunity came. I got a job. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's great to hear, and I believe that was quite a journey for you, and it's quite interesting as well because I've spoken to a previous engineering leader, and he said that actually the fastest way to actually acquire new skills is just to build personal projects, because you will understand the top line from like from the design phase all the way to implementation, and the most important, user feedback. Because when the user actually feeds back, actually it points out certain key areas you might not see in the development phase, and he said that it's one of the best learning or fastest way you can actually learn programming. What I mean, do you feel the same way, or do you have any other thoughts?
I guess like to get users is just also another skill, I guess. But I mean, you don't have to get a lot of users. But I do agree that when you have users, like, so for example, in the coding bootcamp, right, I was tasked to build a project for my final project with a couple of our classmates. And then for us, we are just like, software developers in that scenario. So we just build the product. And we also actually have a marketing team, right? So the marketing team was in charge of, building a brand out of our product and whatnot. And then on the day before the presentation, we showed our website, our web application to the marketing team. And then the marketing team had, like certain questions that we seriously overlooked. And then was like, oh my God, we should have just, showed you the product before we actually push it. But that was a learning experience for me because it realized that, oh, there's a lot of things that we overlook because as software developers, we only can look at it as a software developer. Or when you ask people, then you realize, oh no, actually this doesn't really make sense, right? Oh my God, okay, we should like fix it. So yes, I do agree that having users to use your application on, and if you were to build your own personal projects to learn a certain, technology, yes, I do agree that having users will actually help. But in the end, like it also depends on like whether you want this project for users or just for your own. But I do agree that having a personal project that is not from a tutorial or whatever actually will help you learn faster and also has a very good impression on employers or tech recruiters out there that you are actually someone who's able to do things on your own, right? Because in a workplace, nobody wants to spoon feed you everything because got no time, right? So mainly they are looking for self independent kind of like developer.
Okay, yeah, but besides being independent, what kind of skills do you think you can actually gain from actually doing personal projects?
So for personal projects, other than being self independent, other skills is that you will actually learn how to work for yourself in a sense, right? Because when you work with other people, different from working for yourself, personal projects is more towards working for yourself. So, I mean, if you want to go deeper on how, what skills you learn from personal projects, it depends on what's the direction of it. So, most of the time, it is a common meme in the tech developer thing. We have a lot of side projects, a lot of personal projects that is not done. So it's like developers, right? Because we have superpowers, meaning that we can create apps that maybe in the future will be sold millions of dollars. So that's our superpower. So we like, oh my God, we have an idea. First thing is we buy a domain. So a domain is basically, the website name, right? Okay, we buy that. Okay. That's like the first what do you call that? Guilt purchase. We always buy domains and then never use or because it's just an idea, right? Second, okay, once you get a domain, okay, I'm gonna build this project. Okay, I'm gonna build it. Maybe the next Facebook, whatever. Okay, I'm gonna build it. Da, 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 da. Okay, so I just finished the first feature, the first page, right? And then right after you build the first page, you realize, oh my God, I have another great idea. Okay, so stop the first project, go to the second project, and then you buy another domain or you build another project. So you can just ask developers. So how many side projects you haven't done? They will say a lot because I've been through that as well. So I think number one is you learn how unfocused you are. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying is that if you want to build an actual business, you have to be very focused, meaning that find a problem that you really care about and you think that it's gonna, have a huge impact, whether it's money or having a lot of users, right? So second is that you just focus on that and don't do any other things. So a lot of developers don't, have that skill of, being focused on like building projects, which is fine. It's not for everyone. Like being a software developer versus building a business owner is very different. Software developer, people will give you tasks and your focus is do the task. But being a business owner, right, or being a self-employed person, right, your huge problem is focus, because if you don't do what you need to do, right, and you don't really focus, money go down, will not go up, right? So you need to focus on things that will make you money, and sometimes it's not even building projects or building side projects, right? I mean, I don't know if it deviates, but like skills building personal projects, I don't think there is much skills for personal projects. If you want to make a successful personal project, what I define as a successful personal project is that it has users, and I think, users. I think a lot of software developers don't really get users as well. So for me, like I realized after working for myself, building tech products, I realized don't build a product first. Just build a landing page. Landing page, basically a simple website to collect emails, and then ask users whether they want to use the app, right? That is marketing, right? Very easy. And then if a lot of users want to use your app, you have hundreds of users. So I've used this skill before in a personal project that me and a couple of my ex-classmates actually done. We want to build a app to see whether the traffic of people in libraries, because back then we want to work in libraries to do our projects, but we don't know which library has space or not. So we want to build like a traffic tracker or in an app. So we never even built the app. Me and the other two of my ex-classmates, we actually just created a Google form, stand outside the library, then ask random people, hey, can you do a quick 2-minute survey? We just want to know if you are interested in this app. So after like doing that for 2 days, so we went to the Bugis library and we went to the Bedok library. So in there, we collected 100 users' emails, right? You ask any developers, how many user emails they collect? Probably 0, right? So that was what I learned. I just collect the emails, see if there's a lot of demand, great. Then you have users before building the app. So a lot of people don't know about this. Second is that you can actually make it even better. You want to make a business out of it, you need money, right? That's called this thing called pre-sale, right? So a lot of times when, for example, Apple release a product, but haven't give you the product yet. They say, oh, it's coming in 15 January. Wait, now it's March. Okay, 15 March, right? And then they ask you for money first, right? Pay $2,000 for this iPhone, and they will deliver 15 March. Same thing. You just say, oh, we have an app, all right? To use the app, $1. And deposit the $1. So if you have 100 users, they like your idea, you have $100 in the bank. You haven't even built the app. So these kind of things you don't really learn unless you really want to be in the business of like creating money. But if you want side project, personal project, to be honest, there's no really skills out there, because personal project is personal, right? It's for yourself. But if you want a project that you want to make money from, that's the steps that you have to go through, which is not two things, right? First thing is get your users first. Second thing is get money from them. Third thing, don't even build it, just get more. so yeah lah. So that's what I mean. I deviate, but hopefully, for those who are listening, this will be a good way of thinking of like, okay, maybe I should stop doing personal projects. Maybe I build a project and then stay with it lah. Yeah.
Awesome. You sound like you really consume a lot of Alex Hormozzi's content. That's exactly what he mentions, collect, do the pre-sales, get money up front, then deliver later. And I believe it's also very important because sometimes you also need to validate whether they like your product in the first place, whether there's a demand for it. And you wouldn't want to create something that no one likes also, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, but I'm sure the audience will also love to know more about your journey and some of the challenges you faced. So, I believe going through having went through boot camp and of course having worked as a software engineer and now as a instructor, you have faced many challenges and crises even, right? Where to be where you are right now. Whether it be, let's say, rejections, failures, or whatnot. So, were there any particular crisis that or experience you actually that really stood out to you that you grew a lot from?
I guess that's one. But I don't have like a. I guess what I've learned so far that I think is very applicable is to build a system. Because for me, from my software developer experience, what would actually help improve? Because in a startup, a lot of things will fail, a lot of things will break, a lot of things will just don't work out as what you need it to be, right? And I don't see a particular crisis that really stood out. I mean, I have one, but I think there were more than one crisis or like one issues that I faced that could be resolved with just building system. So what do I mean by building system and process? So it was, I mean, I learned about it just recently, just last year. And I didn't really get why people build processes or, we call this standard of procedure or SOPs. I know some people hear SOP, they're like, oh my God, so boring. So no, the thing is that when you build system processes or whatever, right, it builds a consistent quality of work, right? Because there are step-by-step guides on how to reach to a consistent quality, right? Being a software developer, when you just start out, you don't really care because there's tasks you just do, right? But if you want to, grow in whatever software developer career you want to be, right? Okay, it also depends, right? But what I'm stemming from is that, from my experience, is that in the startup that I was in, right? If there was a system to, for example, push code so that it doesn't break the app when we launch into our App Store or Play Store, right? It could reduce a lot of time wastage, right? So building system helps. And I think some people might think like, oh, it's a waste of time building procedures. It's like, let's build a product out there here and there. I do agree that to build a product to release features as much as possible, but at the same time, if you were to keep on doing the same mistake over and over again, do you think it's a good use of your time to resolve the same issue over and over again? Probably not. So what I realized is that while you should actually find out what are the systems. Sometimes you have to build internal tools, so basically applications that you have to build on your own to make the whole system. But this will actually make your life so much better. So there's a lot of tools out there. Previously there wasn't so many tools. Now there is like AI. There's so many web tools that you can use as a software developer to like automate a lot of stuff. For example, back then I was working on the mobile app kind of things, right? So if there was a way to test, I mean, there was a way to test our app before we launched, but at the point of time, I don't know better because I was very new. But if there was a way to test our app like fully before we launch to the App Store and the Play Store, we would reduce a lot of time resolving errors that come up from the App Store and Play Store, right? Because for those who don't know, when we launch our app in our App Play Store and App Store, so the Play Store is Google, right? So Google checks whether your app is okay. Most of the time, their checks are automated. So that means the quality is not there, meaning that when you go to the Play Store, there's a lot of spam, apps, and the quality of apps is really not that great. But when you go to the App Store in iOS or, Apple, right? Apple ecosystem, their standard actually is so much better because there is a physical person who actually tests out your app. So for the Play Store, you need to wait for 1 to 2 days before the person give you feedback whether your app is successfully pushed in the App Store or Play Store. I mean, sorry, the Play Store. I'm talking about the iOS one. So the thing is that you will never know what the Play Store person will say. And most of the time, the Play Store, like the tester who tests your iOS app, right? Usually there is errors. And when there's errors, that means you need to wait for another 2 to 1 day to make sure the app will launch in the app store, right? So it is a huge waste of time, because if we can just only test on our phones, not say test on our phones, but test automatically, because testing on our phones also takes some time as well. So if we can test automatically using code or using web services, right, then we are able to, reduce a lot of time. So there isn't one crisis, because there's a lot of the same crises that I went through when I was working in a startup. So if there was a system process that helps us to test before we push, then it will help us a lot to give consistent quality of apps. Because if you were to push an app that is buggy, meaning there's a lot of errors, then your ratings will be affected. If ratings is affected, users won't use it, and then you waste a lot of time, kind of thing, right, to resolve and to manage the reviews, all of that. So like I say, system processor is very important. Depends on the what do you call that, the work environment you're in. Startups don't usually don't focus on that, because they just want to push. But if you're in a mid to high level kind of companies, they do that a lot, because they want to produce high quality. For me personally, I feel that no matter what business you are in, small, large, medium, doesn't matter. I feel that even with just one process, you see the amount of time you save when you were to, especially when you're in a startup. A lot of time you save when you were to push out features or applications out. Yeah.
Awesome, man. So, Haris, but also, building up on that point, what were some of the important activities or skill acquisitions that you have done, to get to where you are today? Especially during the coding boot camp. The audience will be very interested to know, what kind of, activities that has actually got you to improve so fast.
I don't know whether I improve very fast, but what do you call that? So I guess I can also add in, because I teach coding as well. So I also can add in from that experience of how students actually can learn faster. So number one is obviously, if you were to do something full time versus part time, you improve way faster, right? So for example, if you were to run, right? If you were to run once a month, do you think you improve as fast? Probably not. But if you run maybe once a week, will you improve as fast? Yeah, probably. So the how consistent you are is very important. So if you were to go through a coding bootcamp where it helps, I mean, it's 9 to 5 code, right? And maybe after 5 you still code, you will actually improve very, very fast, right? So that's number one. So number two is that you also need to follow a structure. So why coding bootcamp works, or why college works or university works, is because they have structure. So meaning that you have a set curriculum or set topic that you need to follow. So first one, okay, I'm going to build a website in HTML, CSS. Okay, second one, I'm going to connect a database to my website. So these are structures, right? Saves it saves a lot of time for you to go through, because a lot of people say, yeah, the internet, there's a lot of resources you can follow, but there's too many. So you have this paralysis analysis. I don't know which one to choose. So when you commit to yourself to one thing, like a coding bootcamp, right, or any like paid program that really makes you, okay, I've spent $2,000 on this, I cannot like not do, or like just ignore it, right? Then it will allow you to just focus on that thing and progress, right? So number one is how often you do it. So if you do it full time, you will progress very fast. Second is that if it's structured, then you will do it as well. So I mean, in a coding bootcamp, the only thing that helps you make you improve fast is to just make sure what you learn is what you understand. So I mean, at the same time, understand is very subjective. What do you mean by understand, right? So I would say that developers most of the time don't understand a lot of things that they do, but what they can understand, right, is like maybe 80% of what they're doing, meaning that, right, your code that you write down, you don't have to understand everything, because there's so much code. So you just need to know that, okay, everything works, everything is outputting whatever I need, right? And then that's about it, right? So it's usually just coding and then seeing the output that you want. So for example, meaning that I I need to build a feature, for example, that has an input of, 1, and then my output to be 2. So in the middle, don't have to be perfect, but if it's giving the output 2 from an input 1, okay, that works. Then you can move on. Because sometimes, it depends, but like, because there's many goals to learning development, right? So my goal back then was to become a software developer. So it's just building projects, right? So other than learning and understanding a bit here and there, because right, eventually you will understand at a point of time if you were to keep on doing the same thing over and over again. That's what I realized, because development, you have a lot of very, we call it jargons, meaning words that is very hard to understand. So you just keep on doing the concept over and over again until you get it. So don't really focus on understanding, but focus on the doing, because eventually you will understand. So other than just doing and understanding a bit here and there, the fourth thing, so the third thing is just doing. The fourth thing is to build simple projects, because this is not because of just like, it's easy to do. This is because it builds confidence, right? When you build small projects, then you see, oh my God, I can do this. Build more small projects. Oh my God, like your confidence just grow. And this will actually make you a little bit more, risk taking, meaning you will actually learn harder concepts. So like, okay, maybe I add this, maybe I add that, right? So building a small project helps, and then slowly advance to, a bit more difficult. So because for myself, I have taught students before, right? What I realized is that if you give, like, for example, what is a better staircase? A staircase that have very steep stairs or very small stairs that you can easily step on, right? So a lot of people say, oh, the stairs with a lot of steps and easy to step on, right? So it's the same with learning. If you learn one concept and then you jump to a very hard concept, will you understand? Probably not. So a lot of times, like, this is a little bit hard to for people who are learning in the coding bootcamp lah. But if you want to learn something, you just learn the basics slowly, because eventually the basics will help you understand the harder and harder concepts. Because a lot of time, trust me, when you were to look in our website, learn code, right? A lot of times developers talk like developers, meaning, right, it's like, for example, you in uni, professors talk like professors. You don't understand what they're talking about, right? So for them, their main job is not to teach you. Their main job is to do research or whatever. So the thing is that what I've for myself is that I will try to explain to myself what are the different like jargons that I have come through, and see whether I understand or not. The best thing that happened last year was ChatGPT. So if you really want to understand a concept that you don't understand, you just type in ChatGPT. Explain, for example, explain variables like I'm 5-year-old. And it will literally tell you the explanation as a 5-year-old. And it helps you better understand. So that's why like I love teaching concepts like a 5-year-old. Like there was one video that I created. It's another coding concept called provider. So if I were to say the actual definition of what a provider is, people don't understand. But if I were to say provider is just passing data from one place to another, suddenly people understand. All right. I mean, that's my skill set that I learned along the way, is to make the explanation as easy as possible. And then learning, sadly, not a lot of people can explain as simple as possible because they don't really have time. It's not a full-time job. It's for them to just write down whatever they think and then done. But and the last thing is just don't give up, lor. Like software development itself is very hard to get in. That's why the pay is very high as well, because it is a high barrier of entry. So a lot of time people just give up because they don't get it. They think it's not worth it. But it's like, I mean, it's fine if you don't want to go. But for those who actually stick through it, learn, build projects, just help understand, keep on coding, right? Eventually, you get to a point where you have a skill as a software developer. And then once you get a job as a software developer, you'll be surprised, why are they paying me 6K and above with no degree, right? So all of these things is something that not a lot of people think about because it's hard, but great things are not easy, right? Yeah. So in summary, just to summarize, first thing is how often you code, how structured is your learning, how often is your learning is the same lah. So you just keep on coding, and then how you learn by just explaining concepts as easy as possible. The tool that I now use will use ChatGPT, and just don't give up, because if you give up, then yeah, you won't succeed lah, right? Yeah, so that's how I think you will improve in your code.
Awesome. Wow. If this podcast goes out, you might put so many university in trouble. And no one will want to ever go back to.
They will still be there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So anyways, Haris, I believe there are many aspiring young engineers who are actually looking into the career of software engineering. So you have actually shared so many, pockets and, of wisdoms as well, to help young engineers to really grow into the career that they really want to be in. So, after teaching many students to become great software developers, I believe you yourself know, like, you have been someone who is slightly slower, but eventually managed to progress out faster. And in your opinion, what are some of the traits, right? Okay, or reasons as to why one person, when he graduates from Code Academy, he becomes much more successful than maybe another person that does not find as much success. What are some of the things that they have done differently that differentiates them? Is it just talent alone, or is it something else as well?
What differentiates from one good developer from another? So I would say, as cheesy as it sounds, it's honestly passion. Because for me, I've met how young? So O-level students. O-level students is around maybe 17, 16, right? Yeah. O-level students, they have coded since they started Sec 1, right? Why is because I guess they just chance upon it and then like, hey, passion, right? So what I've realized that stand out from great developers from not so or okay developers, I just, in all honesty, passion, or because like if you have the passion, you will do it for free. So these people who coded since young, they coded for free because they liked it, right? And I mean, if you've read the book, I forgot, Outliers, right? These people will just do it since young, and then they do it so consistently to a point, right, that when they were to be, for example, in uni, right? Because I have back then when I was interning, I've met like these young interns, right? They were like so smart, they were so young, and then like the next time I've met up with them, they finished like they didn't want to go to JC, junior college. They wanted to go to Poly or Polytechnic, right? Because they wanted to explore like tech, even though they are very good at tech, but they want to explore tech. And then they scored so well in Poly, like I think is basically these three interns are. So these three interns then got like 4.0 GPA because like they decimate everyone like, because they are so good at it. Then like they have university offers. I believe they will be like the top 1% in university because they have acquired so much knowledge since at the age of at the age of like so young, right? So and then some of you might hear in this podcast, oh my god, do I need to go back to being 12 and then learn? It's like, no, it's just like there are some things that you have not explored until you explore it, right? So when you explore passion of, like, for example, for me, being a Flutter developer, I was very passionate about it until I, the Google developer group in Singapore, like, hey, Haris, you want to be a, what do you call that, a Google developer expert? We see you post a lot of like content on Flutter, and then like, it's like, and then opportunity came to me, even though I want to work for myself. So like people say, hey, why not work for me in this company? Hey, why not work remotely for my company? Kind of thing. Because like when you're passionate about something, you spend so much time on it. And I mean, for me, I post a lot of things on LinkedIn about Flutter back then. So a lot of people are like, oh my God, Haris is a Flutter guy. And it's due to just being passionate about it. Because why I chose Flutter is because I really thought that Flutter was the best thing that happened, and it aligned to me being a mobile developer, right? So then I just spent a lot of time, being a learning Flutter, after work, learn Flutter, wake up, learn Flutter, all of these things. So I became obsessed with it, and then eventually it actually shined through. It's like, oh my God, Haris is the Flutter developer, because I got a YouTube channel that teaches Flutter very well. I post a lot of Flutter things on LinkedIn. People see me talk about Flutter and shit. So like all of this is because just pure passion, and that's what makes people great. right? So you might be thinking, I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm 45, whatever, right? It's like, oh my God, I don't know if I have passion for tech. Never know when you try, right? And eventually, if you love it, you spend a lot of time in it as well. And then it will show, it will ooze out from your freaking, sweat because like you're just so passionate about it, right? So passion really will make someone great to and the average or whatever, because you could see someone who's passionate, and we ask someone passionate, right? They can talk about whatever they're passionate about, right? And that's how they make great developers, because they care about things that not normal people care. I've met great developers because they're so passionate. And then, like, for me, to be honest, I'm not a software developer. I'm not as passionate as a software developer. I'm more into like business. Like, I'm very passionate about business, how to run whatever, right? To improve business kind of thing. I was like, but back then when I was interested in Flutter or software development, I love talking about it. I'll go to events for free, talk about Flutter for free, all of that, right? So in all honesty, there is one thing that differentiates. There's not a lot of, like, I can give you a nitty gritty of what makes a great developer, but if you don't have the passion, you're not great. That's it. It's very easy. When you talk to someone, they have no passion, you can just assume accurately that this person will not be great, because you wouldn't hire a passionate person because they just do the minimum job and that's it, right? So they won't be great, right? Will they be an okay developer? Yeah, maybe above average. Okay, yeah, but will they be great? The ones that's going to be like famous because they do impactful stuff? Probably not. So that's my take. It's like, are you passionate about software development? Yeah.
All right. Wow, I can really sense that you're really, really passionate. I mean, even if you downplay your passion for tech, but you have seen a lot of success in it yourself, and I believe that is where your roots came from. Yeah, but now that you mentioned about jobs and careers, right? So I believe right now we are actually facing a recession, a tech crunch whereby companies are a lot more selective over the hires that they are onboarding. So I'm just curious, what are some of the big mistakes that actually young engineers make, right? When they are actually preparing for, or what are the mistakes they actually make during like those job interviews?
Right. Let me correct on the, what do you call it, the tech layoffs thing, right? Yes, in Singapore, we are dealing with tech layoffs, but if you were to just go through LinkedIn, right, the number of jobs didn't really change. Like, yes, people get fired, but if you read closely in the news, right, most of them are not tech jobs. They are just like, mostly recruitments because hiring frozen. So a lot of these are non-tech developers, and the developers who are being laid off, right, they got the job very fast because it's in high demand still, right? If there was a lot of like tech layoffs, not only the big companies will be saying, a lot of like medium companies were saying as well. So right now it's just that because these big tech companies, they overhire kind of thing, because I mean, it's another topic for another day, but it's just them, most of it. And now the medium companies and even the small companies are actually hiring them. And you can say they are hiring, talented engineers for cheap. So yes, we are having a tech layoff, but it's not as bad as you think. And is there any software developer jobs? It's like, it's still in demand, like there's many companies still, like in Singapore, we are so lucky that the government really put in place system very important, systems that attract a lot of these companies in Singapore, and we still have job opportunities to be in tech or software developers. So mistakes in interview, I mean, number one, passion. Literally, both of the interviews that I went through, I literally was passionate about what I was talking about. So like, you can hire, like, there is this, like, what do you call that? I don't know, but like, basically, I feel that if you're very passionate about something, people can see it, and most of the time they will hire the passionate person. You know why? Because, right, if you're not skilled at all, but you're super passionate, and then I give you the job, they'll be super excited, like me. Like, I'll be super excited. I'll literally outperform everyone. Meaning, right, after work, I will still not say work, but I will still learn along the job kind of thing. So, like, I think it's still number one is passion. If you go to a job interview, you just meet the certain requirements and like, then okay, lor, then that's it, lor. So passion honestly will play a huge role on getting interviews because people can see how passionate you are. So second is that if mistakes being in a job interview is that you don't have personal projects, which tied into what we earlier said, right? So like using personal projects that you're passionate about, when you talk about it, people see it, people get hyped up. You know, for example, like when you see someone who's hyped up, you naturally get hyped up as well, right? And that gives a good environment of people having a good impression to you, because interviews are just, it's just it's a fair judgment conversation, right? Because you need a job, so I need to judge you whether you're competent for the job. But most of the time, people will hire people who they want to work with, right? You want, like, if I were to hire someone who is not passionate, very skilled, but you could see like the energy just doesn't fit in, right? That's why there's this thing called culture fit, right? So you just feel like, wow, like very impressive resume, but the vibe is not there. So it's like, would you hire the person? Most of the time, probably not, because like because when someone is hiring, whether it's tech recruiter or the employer, right, they will actually see the person in a team, in their current team, right? And if that person is not a good vibe, whether the person doesn't really feel like there isn't like passion or doesn't, so it just falls apart very fast. So like I mean, if you just apply for jobs and then you're not really passionate about a job, just don't waste your time. Don't apply. And like, okay, I mean, you can apply, you go for an interview just to trial run to see how an interview works, can. But if you want to really like get a job, like try your best, get the job, and then be passionate about it. It's like there was one LinkedIn post I post. I think it was very interesting. Uh, rather than applying for 100 jobs, apply for one job 100 times. So there are some good and bad comments from LinkedIn. People say that's going to be annoying. I call that person has resilience. That person has grit. And that person will never give up. And what I've learned, right, is that a lot of successful people never give up because they don't see it, right? So because like for me, right, I'm not in the best circumstance, right? I don't have a degree. Nobody cares about me, right? And then like, how can I, make my opportunities the best that I can? I just, apply, be passionate about it, because I feel that sometimes we are, what do you call that? We are privileged. We think, okay, lah, we have degree, confirm can get job kind of thing. So like, I don't know when that will, like, I mean, people still look at degree if you want to become software developer for the first time, right? But if you want to become a software developer, or you jump to another company, that's when they will see your job experience and see what impact you have done in the company. I mean, right now, due to still the high demand of software developers, I don't think they really care whether you are passionate about or whatnot. But for those who I'm talking to, the career transition people with no degree, like I think, right, the position you're in is the best because it's hard and you really need to push yourself to become, software developers. You need to really sell yourself to become software developers. For those who have degrees, you have an easier time to get software developers, unless you want to go to Google. That one you can just Google yourself. Literally, there's so many resources out there for you, right? But for those who don't have the degree, who outside from coding bootcamp, like, it's hard, but this will shape for who you are going to be in the future, because I feel that people who went through hardships are the people that actually grow so much more, right? And I'm not saying degree people are bad or what. It's just that, like, if you've been through hardships, I think, like, I don't know, like financial advisors like yourself, right? Like, it's not easy, what, right? It's not easy. And like, for you to work multiple years in a financial advisory role, you must have more than, like it's like, it's not like an easy thing, like, oh, I got degree, can get jobs. Like, for software developers, I could literally say, yeah, you got degree, can get a job software. Really, like, that's how, not say easy, but that's how easier than most people, and you're being paid a lot of money. That's yeah lah. So, but for those like career transition people, it's very hard. And like, I would say the rewards it's really something that you should always remind of yourself, right? And yeah lor, so it can literally change your life, because that money, most of the time, people who transition careers, they are not from degree backgrounds or other kind of thing lah. So yeah, I'm very passionate about this because I mean, education system in Singapore is pretty good, but for those who were not in and didn't really benefit from it, yeah, that's the thing lah. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Wow, you're inspiring so many people out there with your work. And I believe this could be a potential wave, of alternate education. And actually I've been also quite a fan of alternate education. I realized that, while school systems are built to, for as a very structured way to succeed. But I always believe that as long as you're resourceful and you find things out there, you can make it work quite easily. And yeah, thanks Haris for reminding us about that. Right. Okay, yeah. So anyways, to wrap things up, do you have any last piece of advice for the audiences, as you as an instructor, you to give to your students?
Right. So I would say like for those who are in, computer science degree, or uni students, whatever inside any tech related course, right? Like you must think of like whether this is going to be your career, because your career it will take 80%, 60% of your life. So I mean, of course you can always transition career. So for me, I wouldn't even think of like, the degree is for you, the career is for you, because like what I've realized is like the most important thing is like self-awareness, right? Meaning that as cheesy as it sounds, right? A lot of people, why, like I can tell you, some developer friends of mine are actually having midlife crisis or quarter life crisis, meaning they're 25 years old already. They're like, oh my God, is this for me? Like a lot of things like right now you can be a developer, yes, earn a lot of money, sure, but after a while you realize like, am I going to do this for the rest of my life or not, right? So being self-aware of like what is your, first of all, what you are good at, what you're naturally good at, right? Like I have a friend, he is a software developer in a company, paid very well, and also like very flexible, colleagues very nice. So like he tell me his problem in situations like, what's the problem? Your situation is amazing. What are you talking about? They say, oh, I want more money. That's like, okay, why? Then they say, oh, because my other friends earn more money. So if you earn as much as them, are you going to be happy? I think I never say that, but he'll probably say, I don't know, right? So then I realized what his problem was, right? He wasn't fulfilled in his role, right? What do you mean by fulfilled? Meaning, right, he don't really enjoy going to work, right? Even though his surroundings is good, his colleagues is good, pay is good, right? But like the inner thing is not there, right? Then I just look back and then see him as a person. So he's a friend. I rock climb, so I met him through rock climbing, and then we are in the same industry by chance. So then I was like thinking like, hey, this person, he's super extroverted. What do I mean? So you might think, oh, Harry's quite extroverted. He can talk very passionate. It's like, okay, for me, I'm extroverted, maybe level 3. This friend, right, level 7, level 8 extrovert. What do I mean? When he go to the rock climbing gym, right, he need to say to hi to like 5, 6, 7 people, right? He loves like interacting with strangers, making friends with them. It's like that's his like superpower. For me, right, I'm like I say hi to one person, maybe make friends, maybe like once or twice, maybe in a month, right? I'm not that extroverted. Like I can talk to people, but like it's not I don't really care about people. I just want to do I go rock climbing not to do like make friends. Like sometimes I make friends, but most of the time I just rock climb, right? Then I see him like, wow, he's a very extroverted person. He really just love like making friends, talking, right? Then I was like asking him, oh, have you heard of this position called sales engineer? They say no, right? Okay, right. So a sales engineer is basically a person. Yeah, of course, you need tech knowledge, but your role is to meet people, meet clients, and then you ask them whether they need, solutions of or what problems they have. Then my friend was thinking to himself, right? Then I tell him why I'm saying this role to you is because you're a person who's very extroverted, who's very good at being extroverted. So why not use that and then actually, do it in a job position? And I say, I never thought of that. Then I could see that in his mind, he's like getting a bit more like, oh, okay, I can see it, right? I mean, currently in the degree or course that you're in, you might be thinking, oh my God, software development is not for me. Yes, it might be because it's a lot of like sitting in a computer, looking at the code, solving problems. And if you really don't get it after like, 1 month, right? It's fine. It's okay because coding is not for everyone, right? And then what happens if you're still interested in the tech industry? The tech industry got a lot of roles. Not being a software developer is just one, right? There is, sales engineer doing sales. There is this thing called dev relation, meaning that you build out relationships with companies by, creating talks, that kind of thing. Then there's more like, sometimes, right? A progression is like being software developer. I want to manage people because I feel like I'm a leader, right? There is a manager role. So a tech manager, there is, or product manager. So you manage the product, the tech product. You need to have a bit of tech knowledge, but you just manage how the product is going to be developed. Or maybe it's like, I know I'm more towards the visual. Like I love creating, the UI. There is UI engineer out there. So a lot of times, right, when people go to this course, they think software developer, software developer, software developer. But to be honest, it's just one job of hundreds of jobs that's already available out there, right? So this is, I think, like if I were to be in uni or people who just started to, learn tech, I think you need to really step back on like who you are, right? And for me, it took me a while because like I quit my software development job back then. And then the time where I was being self-employed, working on my own thing, I really just, go through like, okay, what I'm good at, what I'm like interested, all of that, right? And all of these are things that you will have time in uni for those in uni, right? Or students who are in tech. So if you have the opportunity and the space, because I feel like for those uni students, because I don't know if this podcast is for the A-level students or uni students, whatever, right? Uni is the best place to like, just explore. I've not been in uni, but I believe that uni has like a lot of like interest clubs, right? Like trading club lah, like investment clubs, or whatever clubs out there, just join and then see whether you're interested or not. Because eventually, software development might not be for you, right? Software development is for the people who really like since young go for the software development, or people who are like, oh my god, software development is such a good thing, right? Yeah. But for those who got like options, right? Just explore, because in the end, right, there will be a point of time in your career where you ask yourself, am I going to do this for the rest of my life? Right? And if it's no, then okay, then you have to, search all of that, right? And then like, why not search it now? Because if you search it now, the skills that you develop later on, you will become better and better and better. And then eventually you become so good at it that people pay a high premium to you, right? So that's why I think the advice that I will give is, to be honest, just really know who you are and what you can do in a job that's available and hopefully high paying. Because eventually, when you are very passionate about something that you do and you're good at, most of the time you're being paid a lot to do it as well. That's why a lot of people become TikTok stars, right? Because TikTok gave the avenue for anybody to be famous. No need to be pretty, handsome, whatever, right? You can just be funny or what, some trend out there, and then a lot of people is like, hey, come for my podcast, hey, can you I want to do sponsor with you, kind of thing. It's like, now we are in the best position to really explore on what we want to do, especially if you're in Singapore, because like, there's so much opportunities out there that you can do. In terms of creative side, maybe TikTok stars, sure, right? But yeah, so like the first thing I'll ask, right, if you won't be in the degree or tech course, what will you else be doing? And if that is more interesting than what you're doing now, then why not go for that? Yeah, so that's my advice.
Awesome. All right. Wow, Haris, so much value bombs. Yeah, I really learning a lot from you. And you know what? Even if you're not maybe in the tech role or whatnot, I believe everyone would learn a lot from him. The way he actually has shifted his perspective along the way, and what are some of the important things that have help him get to where he is today. So Haris, where can the audience actually best reach you and connect with you if they are looking for advice, opportunities, or even potentially even learning from you?
Right. So you can just go to LinkedIn, Haris Samingan, or Haris Sam, or you can follow me on TikTok. I also have TikTok, so you just Haris Sam. Yeah. So yeah, I usually post on LinkedIn, and you can. If you DM me, see if I will reply or not lah. But I will try to reply as much as possible. Yeah.
Okay, Ken. Yeah, so anyways, thanks Haris, for being on this show, and really hope that what he has shared has inspired all of you All right, so I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.